The gunshot that shattered the desert silence sent Eleanor Hartwell tumbling from her horse into a ravine of scrub, brush, and red dust. And for 3 days, she had been running ever since through the unforgiving Arizona territory of 1881. She could barely see straight anymore. Her vision blurred at the edges, and every shadow seemed to move with menace. The world tilted dangerously as she stumbled through the rocky terrain, her once fine traveling dress torn and caked with dust and dried blood from a gash on her arm. Behind her, somewhere in the vastness of this brutal landscape, were the men who had murdered her father and the rest of their small wagon party. They wanted the land deed her father had carried, the deed to a silver mine claim worth a fortune, now hidden in the lining of her corset. Eleanor had no idea where she was going. She only knew she had to keep moving, keep breathing, keep her eyes open even though they burned with exhaustion. The sun beat down mercilessly, and her canteen had run dry hours ago. Her lips were cracked and bleeding, and her legs felt like they might give out at any moment. When she finally saw the outline of buildings shimmering in the heat haze, she thought it might be a mirage. But as she drew closer, the small settlement took solid form. A handful of wooden structures clustered around a dusty main street, horses tied to hitching posts, the sound of a piano drifting from what must be a saloon. She had made it to civilization, but she did not know if she could trust anyone here. Those men could be anywhere. They could be here. Eleanor's legs finally gave out as she reached the edge of town. She fell hard onto her knees, her hands barely catching her before her face hit the dirt. She tried to push herself up, but her arms shook violently. The world spun sickeningly. "Ma'am." A deep voice cut through the ringing in her ears. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" Strong hands gripped her shoulders, steadying her. Eleanor's head snapped up, and she found herself staring into the most striking pair of blue eyes she had ever seen. They belonged to a man who looked to be in his mid-20s, with sun-bronzed skin, dark hair that curled slightly at the edges beneath his worn hat, and a face that was all hard angles softened only by genuine concern. "Please," Eleanor managed to whisper, her voice hoarse from dehydration and disuse. "They are following me. They killed my father. I cannot let them find me." The cowboy's expression shifted from concern to something harder, more protective. He glanced over her shoulder, scanning the horizon with practiced efficiency. "Who's following you?" "4 men, maybe 5, I lost count." Eleanor swayed dangerously. "They want something I have. They will kill me for it." Without hesitation, the cowboy scooped her up into his arms as if she weighed nothing. Eleanor wanted to protest, to insist she could walk, but her body betrayed her. She sagged against his broad chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her cheek. "I've got you," he said firmly. "Name's Cole Harrison. I'm the deputy sheriff here in Salvation Creek. Nobody's going to hurt you, ma'am. I give you my word." He carried her swiftly down the main street, his long strides eating up the distance. People stopped to stare, but Cole ignored them, his focus entirely on getting Eleanor to safety. He shouldered open the door to a small building marked with a wooden sign that read Sheriff's Office and carried her inside, laying her carefully on a cot in one of the cells. "This is the safest place in town," Cole explained, seeing her alarmed expression at being placed in a jail cell. "Iron bars, one entrance I can watch. Nobody gets past me." An older man with silver hair and a weathered face appeared in the doorway. "What have we got here, Cole?" "Doc Pemberton, thank God. This woman needs help. She's been running for days, by the look of her." The doctor moved quickly, his experienced hands already reaching for Eleanor's wrist to check her pulse. She's severely dehydrated and exhausted. "Get me water, cool but not cold, and some broth if the boarding house has any." Cole disappeared, and Eleanor heard him barking orders outside. The doctor began examining her injuries, cleaning the wound on her arm with gentle efficiency. "This needs stitches, young lady. Can you tell me your name?" "Eleanor Hartwell," she whispered. "My father was James Hartwell. We were traveling from Santa Fe to Tucson with a wagon party. 3 days ago, men attacked us. They killed everyone. I managed to escape, but they have been hunting me ever since." Doc Pemberton's face darkened. "I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Hartwell, but you're safe now. Cole Harrison is the best deputy this territory has ever seen. If he says he'll protect you, you can believe it." Cole returned with a pitcher of water and a tin cup. He poured carefully, then helped Eleanor sit up enough to drink. She gulped greedily, and he had to slow her down. "Easy now. Too much too fast will make you sick." The water was the most wonderful thing Eleanor had ever tasted. It soothed her parched throat and seemed to bring some clarity back to her muddled mind. She drank 3 cups slowly while the doctor stitched her arm. The pain was sharp, but Eleanor barely flinched. She had endured far worse in the past 3 days. "Miss Hartwell," Cole said, crouching beside the cot so he was at eye level with her. "I need you to tell me everything you can about these men, what they look like, what they want, anything that might help me identify them if they show up here." Eleanor nodded, gathering her thoughts. "The leader has a scar across his left cheek from his eye to his jaw. He wore a black hat with a silver band. Another man was huge, over 6 feet tall, with red hair and a beard. There was a thin man with a nervous twitch, always fidgeting with a knife. The others I did not see as clearly." "And what do they want from you?" Eleanor hesitated. She had been clutching her secret so tightly for 3 days, trusting no one. But looking into Cole Harrison's steady blue eyes, she felt something shift inside her. He had already shown her more kindness than she had any right to expect from a stranger. "My father discovered a silver mine," she said quietly. "He had it surveyed and filed a legal claim. The deed is worth a fortune. Those men knew about it somehow. They killed everyone to get it. But my father gave it to me before he died, told me to run and hide. It is sewn into my corset." Cole's expression did not change, though she saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Not greed, she noted with relief, but calculation. He was already planning, already thinking several steps ahead. "That deed makes you a very rich woman, Miss Hartwell. It also makes you a target for every outlaw and opportunist in the territory." "I know," Eleanor said, her voice breaking slightly. "I do not want the mine, I do not want the money. I just want my father back. I want my life back." Doc Pemberton finished bandaging her arm and stood. "She needs rest, Cole. Days of it, probably, before she's back on her feet properly." "I have not slept in 3 days," Eleanor whispered, the admission costing her what little strength she had left. Fear had kept her moving. Terror had kept her eyes open. But now, in this small cell with iron bars and a steadfast deputy standing guard, exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. Cole reached out and gently brushed a strand of sweat-dampened hair from her forehead. The gesture was tender, almost intimate, and Eleanor felt her breath catch. "Then rest," he said softly. "I'll watch over you." "You do not know me," Eleanor protested weakly. "Why would you do this?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Cole answered simply. "Because you're alone and scared and you've been through hell. Because I took an oath to protect people and I mean to keep it. And because—" he paused, seeming to wrestle with his words, "because something tells me you're worth protecting." Eleanor wanted to argue, wanted to insist she could take care of herself, but her body had other ideas. Her eyelids felt like lead weights, and the cot beneath her, though simple and hard, felt like the most comfortable bed in the world. She let her eyes close just for a moment. "What if they come?" she murmured, already drifting. "Then I'll be here," Cole promised. "Sleep, Eleanor, you're safe now." And somehow, impossibly, Eleanor believed him. For the first time in 3 days, she let herself sink into the darkness, trusting this stranger to keep his word. Eleanor slept for nearly 18 hours straight. Cole kept his promise, never leaving his post by the cell door. He sent word to the sheriff, who was out of town dealing with a cattle rustling case, and stationed himself in a chair tilted back against the wall where he could watch both Eleanor and the door to the street. He cleaned his rifle, checked his revolver, and waited. Other deputies offered to relieve him, but Cole refused. He could not explain why, even to himself, but something about Eleanor Hartwell had struck him deep in his chest. Maybe it was the courage it took to survive 3 days alone in hostile territory. Maybe it was the vulnerability in her hazel eyes, the way she looked at him like he was her last hope in the world. Or maybe it was something simpler and more profound. The instant, inexplicable recognition that this woman was going to change his life. When Eleanor finally woke, the sun was streaming through the small window, painting golden squares on the wooden floor. She sat up slowly, wincing at the stiffness in her muscles, and found Cole exactly where he had been before she fell asleep, still watching, still vigilant. "You really stayed," she said, her voice rusty but stronger than before. Cole smiled, and the expression transformed his serious face into something warm and approachable. "Told you I would. Most men do not keep their promises to women they just met." "Then you have been meeting the wrong kind of men, Miss Hartwell." Eleanor felt heat rise to her cheeks, and she looked away, suddenly very aware of her disheveled appearance. She must look like something dragged behind a horse for miles, which was not far from the truth. "I must look terrible." "You look alive," Cole said firmly. "That's what matters. Are you hungry?" As if in answer, Eleanor's stomach growled loudly. Cole laughed, a rich sound that made something flutter in Eleanor's chest. He stood and stretched, his tall frame unfolding with the easy grace of a man comfortable in his own skin. "I'll get you some food. There's a basin and pitcher over there if you want to wash up a bit. I'll be right outside the door." He left, and Eleanor took the opportunity to splash water on her face and do what she could with her hair. Her reflection in the small mirror on the wall shocked her. She did look terrible, hollow-eyed and pale beneath the sunburn, her hair a tangled mess. But she was alive, as Cole had said, and that was more than she had expected 3 days ago. Cole returned with a tray laden with eggs, bacon, biscuits, and strong coffee. Eleanor fell on the food like a starving wolf, barely pausing to breathe. Cole watched her with amusement and satisfaction, pleased to see color returning to her cheeks. "Slow down, or you'll make yourself sick," he cautioned gently. Eleanor forced herself to eat more slowly, savoring each bite. "I apologize, I have not eaten much in days. Just some jerky and hard biscuits I had in my saddlebag." "No need to apologize. You've been through an ordeal." Cole poured her more coffee. "When you're ready, I need to ask you some more questions, and we need to talk about what happens next." Eleanor nodded, her stomach tightening with anxiety. She had been so focused on survival that she had not thought much about the future. "What do you recommend?" "First, we need to get that deed to a safe place. The land office in Tucson would be best. Get it properly registered in your name. That makes it a lot harder for anyone to steal. Second, we need to identify these men and bring them to justice for what they did to your wagon party. That means you'll need to work with a sketch artist and give formal statements. Third," he hesitated. "Third, you need to decide what you want to do with your life now." The blunt assessment was exactly what Eleanor needed. Cole was not coddling her or treating her like a fragile flower. He was speaking to her as an equal, as someone capable of making her own decisions. She appreciated that more than he could know. "I want those men caught," Eleanor said firmly. "My father and the others deserve justice. As for the mine, I suppose I should see what it is worth. My father died for that claim. I owe it to him to make something of it. Fair enough. As for the trip to Tucson, I can escort you. It's about 3 days' ride if we push it, longer if we take it easy. You would do that? Leave your post here. Sheriff's back tomorrow. I've got leave coming." "Besides," Cole said, his blue eyes meeting her steadily, "I'm not letting you ride into danger alone. Not after all you've been through to stay alive." Eleanor felt that flutter in her chest again, stronger this time. "Thank you, Cole. I do not know how I will ever repay your kindness. No repayment necessary. It is just the right thing to do." But even as he said it, Cole knew it was more than that. He had been a deputy for 6 years, had protected countless people, had seen more violence and tragedy than most men twice his age. But Eleanor Hartwell was different. She stirred something in him that had been dormant for years, something he had thought he might never feel. He was drawn to her strength, her resilience, the way she refused to crumble even when every right to do so. And beneath the practical concerns of protection and justice, he was beginning to feel something deeper, something dangerous and exhilarating. The next 2 days passed in a strange sort of limbo. Eleanor regained her strength, eating regular meals and sleeping deeply each night in the safety of the cell. Cole remained her constant guardian, and as the hours passed, they talked. They talked about everything and nothing. Her life back east before her father decided to seek his fortune in the West, Cole's upbringing on a ranch in Texas, books they had read, places they dreamed of seeing, the small moments that shaped who they had become. Eleanor learned that Cole was 26, that he had lost his parents to cholera when he was 16, that he had drifted for years before finding purpose in law enforcement. He was thoughtful and intelligent, with a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard and made her laugh despite everything she had been through. Cole learned that Eleanor was 23, educated at a finishing school in Boston, that she played piano and loved poetry, that she had been reluctant to come west, but had done so out of love for her father, who had been her only family. She was sharper than he expected, with opinions on politics and justice that challenged his own thinking. She did not simper or flirt or play the helpless female. She met him as an equal, and he found that incredibly attractive. On the third day, the sheriff returned, a grizzled man named Tom Booker who had been wearing a badge since before Cole was born. Cole briefed him on the situation, and Sheriff Booker immediately agreed that escorting Eleanor to Tucson was the right call. "Those men sound like the Garrett gang," Sheriff Booker said grimly. "Cal Garrett has that scar you described, Miss Hartwell. He is bad news, runs with a crew of cutthroats and killers. If they are after you, you need more than just local protection. Federal marshals in Tucson can help." The name sent a chill down Eleanor's spine. Cal Garrett. Now her enemy had a name, and that made him more real, more terrifying, but it also made him catchable. Men with reputations left trails. They prepared to leave at dawn the next morning. Cole outfitted Eleanor with proper riding clothes borrowed from the general store owner's daughter, a split riding skirt and a sturdy shirt that fit well enough. He also gave her a small revolver and spent an hour teaching her how to load and fire it. "I hope you never have to use this," Cole said as Eleanor practiced her grip. "But if it comes down to it, you aim for the center of the chest and you do not hesitate. A moment's hesitation can be the difference between life and death." Eleanor nodded, her face serious. "I understand." She proved to be a decent shot, hitting the tin cans Cole set up more often than not. He was impressed. "You have steady hands." "My father taught me to shoot when I was younger. He believed women should be able to protect themselves. I just never thought I would actually need to." They set out before sunrise, 2 horses laden with supplies for the journey. Cole led them away from the main trail, taking a route he knew that was longer but safer, winding through canyons and over ridges that would make them harder to track. Eleanor kept pace without complaint, her body still sore but her determination unwavering. The first day passed without incident. They rode hard, stopping only to rest the horses and eat dried meat and hardtack. Cole kept his eyes on the horizon, watching for any signs of pursuit. Eleanor watched him, noting the confidence in the way he sat his horse, the constant vigilance that never seemed to tire him. That night, they made camp in a sheltered canyon with a small spring. Cole built a minimal fire, just enough to make coffee and warm some beans. They sat close to the flames as the desert night grew cold, the temperature dropping dramatically with the sunset. "Are you warm enough?" Cole asked, noticing Eleanor shiver despite her blanket. "I will be fine," Eleanor said, but her teeth chattered slightly, betraying her words. Without hesitation, Cole moved closer and wrapped his own blanket around both of them, his arm coming around her shoulders. The gesture was practical, sharing body heat, but it felt like more. Eleanor leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his body against hers, and for the first time since her father's death, she felt something other than fear and exhaustion. She felt safe. She felt cared for. She felt something dangerously close to happiness. "Cole," she said softly. "Why are you really doing this? The truth." Cole was silent for a long moment, staring into the fire. "When I found you that day, collapsing in the street, something happened to me. I have helped a lot of people over the years, Miss Hartwell. It is my job, but with you it felt like more than duty." "It felt like fate," Eleanor's breath caught. "Fate? I know it sounds foolish, we barely know each other. But I cannot shake the feeling that I was meant to be there that day, meant to find you, meant to help you. And the more time I spend with you, the more I want to keep helping you, keep knowing you." He turned to look at her, his blue eyes intense in the firelight. "I am not a man who speaks fancy words or makes pretty speeches, but I am honest. And honestly, Eleanor, you have gotten under my skin in a way I did not think possible." Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. "I feel it too," she whispered. "I thought I was losing my mind, feeling this way about someone I just met, after everything that has happened. But when I am with you, the world makes sense again. You make me feel strong when I should feel broken." Cole reached up and gently cupped her face, his calloused thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped. "You are strong. You are the strongest person I have ever met. You survived hell and came out fighting. That is not something I gave you, that is all you." Then he kissed her, and it was gentle and fierce all at once. Eleanor's hands came up to grip his shirt, pulling him closer, and Cole responded by deepening the kiss, his arms wrapping fully around her. The blanket fell away, but neither of them noticed the cold. The heat between them was enough to keep the night at bay. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "I should not have done that." "Why not?" "Because you are vulnerable, and I am supposed to be protecting you, and I do not want you to think I am taking advantage." Eleanor smiled, really smiled, for the first time in days. "Cole Harrison, if you think I am too weak to tell you no if I did not want that kiss, then you have not been paying attention. I kissed you back because I wanted to, because I have wanted to since the moment you picked me up off that street." Cole laughed, the sound full of relief and joy. "In that case, Miss Hartwell, might I have permission to kiss you again?" "You may," Eleanor said primly, then ruined the effect by pulling him down to her. They kissed until the fire burned low, and the stars wheeled overhead, exploring this new connection that had sparked between them with the intensity of summer lightning. When they finally settled down to sleep, Cole kept Eleanor wrapped in his arms, and she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I have got you," Cole murmured into her hair. "Always." Eleanor believed him. The second day brought trouble. They were crossing a narrow pass between two red rock cliffs when Cole suddenly reined in his horse, holding up a hand for silence. Eleanor stopped immediately, her hand moving instinctively to the revolver at her hip. "What is it?" she whispered. "Riders," Cole said quietly. "Coming up fast behind us. Could be nothing, but I do not like the timing." He urged his horse forward at a faster pace, and Eleanor matched him. They made it through the pass and into a wider valley, but the sound of hoofbeats behind them grew louder. Cole swore under his breath. "They are gaining on us. We need to find cover." He pointed to a cluster of large boulders up ahead, the remnants of some ancient rockslide. They rode hard for it, dismounting quickly when they reached the shelter of the stones. Cole pulled his rifle from its saddle holster and positioned himself where he could see the pass. "Stay down," he ordered Eleanor, "and get your gun out just in case." Eleanor obeyed, her heart hammering. Was it the Garrett gang? Had they found her after all? 4 riders emerged from the pass, and Eleanor's blood ran cold. Even at this distance, she recognized the man in the lead, the black hat with the silver band, the way he sat his horse like a king surveying his domain. Cal Garrett. Cole saw her reaction. "That them?" "Yes," Eleanor breathed. "The leader and 3 of the others." Cole's jaw tightened. He called out in a voice that carried across the valley. "That is far enough, gentlemen. I am Deputy Cole Harrison from Salvation Creek, and the woman you are chasing is under my protection. Turn around and ride away or face the consequences." Cal Garrett laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. Deputy, is it? You are a long way from your jurisdiction. Hand over the woman and whatever she is carrying and you can ride away with your life. Not going to happen, Cole said flatly. This is your last warning. You are 1 man against 4, Garrett shouted back. Do the math, lawman. The math says you are going to be real sorry you did not take my advice, Cole replied. Then to Eleanor, barely moving his lips, when I start shooting, you aim for the one on the far left, the nervous one with the knife. Put him down or pin him down, do not give him a chance to flank us. Eleanor's hands shook, but she nodded. She moved into position, bracing her revolver against the rock, sighting down the barrel like Cole had taught her. On 3, Cole murmured. 1, 2, 3, he fired, and the crack of his rifle split the air. The huge red-haired man jerked and fell from his horse. Cole's rifle spoke again before the echo faded, and another rider went down. Eleanor squeezed her trigger, the revolver bucking in her hand. She missed, but her second shot caught the nervous man in the shoulder, and he dropped his reins, clutching his arm. Cal Garrett realized immediately that he had miscalculated. He wheeled his horse and spurred it back toward the pass, his remaining able-bodied companion following. The wounded man tried to follow, but Cole's third shot dropped his horse, and the man went sprawling into the dust. Cole was up and moving before Eleanor could process what had happened. He ran forward, rifle ready, and kicked the wounded man's gun away before pulling him to his feet. Where is Garrett going? Go to hell, the man spat. Cole slammed him back against a boulder, his forearm across the man's throat. Wrong answer. The woman you have been hunting. She is under federal protection now, and that makes this a federal case. You are looking at murder charges and conspiracy to commit robbery. Your only chance at seeing anything other than a noose is to cooperate. Now, where is Garrett going? The man's eyes darted around, desperate, and then he sagged. He's got a hideout in the Dragoon Mountains, old mining camp. He'll go there to regroup. Smart man. Cole zip-tied the man's hands behind his back with practiced efficiency and marched him back to where Eleanor stood. The red-haired giant was dead, shot through the heart. The other man Cole had hit was gasping his last breaths, blood spreading across his chest. Eleanor turned away, her stomach churning. She had seen death before 3 days ago, but it still made her feel sick. Cole noticed and his expression softened. I am sorry you had to see this. You saved my life, Eleanor said, her voice shaking. Again. That is the plan, Cole said gently. He secured the prisoner to a horse and gathered the weapons from the dead men. We need to move, and fast. If Garrett is as smart as he thinks he is, he will be circling back with reinforcements. We are still a day and a half from Tucson. They rode hard for the rest of the day, the prisoner in tow, stopping only when darkness made travel too dangerous. Cole found another sheltered spot, this time a shallow cave carved into a cliff face by centuries of wind and water. He secured the prisoner at the back of the cave and built a small fire near the entrance. Eleanor was quiet, processing everything that had happened. She kept seeing the men fall, kept hearing the gunshots echo in her mind. Cole sat down beside her and took her hand. Talk to me, he said quietly. I knew you might have to shoot them, Eleanor said slowly. I knew this could turn violent, but seeing it happen, seeing men die, even men who wanted to kill me, it is harder than I thought it would be. That is because you have a good heart, Cole said. If it did not bother you, I would be worried. Taking a life, even in defense of yourself or others, should never be easy. The day it becomes easy is the day you have lost something important. How do you do it? How do you live with it? Cole stared into the fire. I remember why I did it. I remember the people I saved, the innocent folks who got to go home because I was willing to stand between them and evil. It does not make the weight go away, but it makes it bearable. And I pray, for whatever that is worth, that God understands the difference between murder and justice. Eleanor squeezed his hand. You are a good man, Cole Harrison. I am trying to be. For you, I want to be the best man I can be. That night, they lay close together again, Cole's arms wrapped protectively around Eleanor. Despite the danger, despite everything, Eleanor felt at peace. She was falling in love with this cowboy deputy, this man who had promised to watch over her and had kept that promise against all odds. The next day brought them within sight of Tucson. The city rose from the desert like a mirage, adobe buildings and church spires shimmering in the heat. Cole rode straight to the federal marshal's office and turned over his prisoner, along with a detailed account of everything that had happened. The marshal, a weathered man named Frank Dalton, listened carefully and nodded. "We have been after Cal Garrett for 2 years. You have given us enough to bring him in for good, Deputy Harrison, and Miss Hartwell, your testimony will be crucial. We will send a detail to the Dragoon Mountains immediately." "What about the bodies from our wagon party?" Eleanor asked quietly. "They deserve proper burial." "We will see to it," Marshal Dalton promised. "You have my word." The deed to the silver mine was registered in Eleanor's name at the land office, the paperwork filed properly and securely. A mining engineer was consulted, and he examined the survey reports Eleanor's father had kept. His assessment was stunning. The mine was potentially worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly more. Eleanor sat in the land office holding the papers and felt nothing. Her father should have been here to see this. He should have been the one celebrating. Instead, she was alone in a strange city with a fortune she had never wanted, except she was not alone. Cole was there, standing quietly by the window, giving her space but staying close. When she looked up and met his eyes, she saw understanding there and compassion and something deeper that made her heart race. "What do I do now?" Eleanor asked, not sure if she was asking Cole or herself. "Whatever you want," Cole said. "You are free, Eleanor. The men who killed your father are dead or captured. You have more money than you will ever need. The world is open to you. And what about you? You have to go back to Salvation Creek." Cole crossed the room and knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "I do have to go back, at least for a while. I have responsibilities there. But Eleanor, if you want me to, I will come back to you, or you could come with me. Or we could go somewhere entirely new, start fresh. I do not care where I am as long as I am with you." Eleanor's breath caught. "Cole, we have known each other barely a week." "I know. And if you need time, I will give it to you. I will wait as long as it takes, but I also know what I feel and I know it is real. I love you, Eleanor Hartwell. I think I loved you from the moment I caught you when you fell. You are brave and strong and brilliant, and I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to face the world alone again." Tears streamed down Eleanor's face, but she was smiling. "I love you too. I know it is crazy, I know it is too fast, but I cannot deny it. You saved my life, but more than that, you gave me a reason to want to live again. You made me feel safe and cherished and strong. I do not want to be without you, Cole." Cole pulled her into his arms and kissed her, and the land office clerk discreetly left the room to give them privacy. When they finally pulled apart, both were grinning like fools. "So what is the plan?" Eleanor asked breathlessly. "Well, first, I think you should come back to Salvation Creek with me. It is not much, but it is home, and I think you might like it. We can figure out what to do with your mine, maybe hire a manager to run it so you do not have to deal with the day-to-day. And then, when you are ready, when you are sure this is what you want, I would like to marry you." "When I am ready," Eleanor laughed. "Cole, I am ready now. I do not need time to know that you are the man I want to spend my life with. Then we will find a preacher right now today if that is what you want." Eleanor hesitated, then shook her head. "No, not today. I want to do this right. I want a real wedding, small but proper, with people we care about around us. I want it to be a celebration, not something rushed because we are caught up in the moment. Can you give me a month?" "I will give you anything you want," Cole promised. "A month it is." They returned to Salvation Creek together, and the small town welcomed Eleanor with surprising warmth. News of her ordeal had spread, and people looked at her with respect rather than pity. Cole moved her into the boarding house run by a kind widow named Martha Simmons, who took Eleanor under her wing immediately. Over the next month, Eleanor and Cole courted properly, though everyone in town knew how the story would end. They took walks in the evening, had dinners at the boarding house, attended church together on Sundays. Cole showed Eleanor the land around Salvation Creek, the hidden valleys and mesas he had explored over his years as a deputy. Eleanor taught Cole to dance, laughing as he stumbled over his own feet in Martha's parlor. They talked endlessly, learning each other's dreams and fears and quirks. Cole discovered that Eleanor hated coffee despite drinking it constantly and that she hummed when she was nervous. Eleanor learned that Cole had wanted to be a rancher before his parents died, that he secretly wrote poetry though he would die before admitting it to anyone but her, that he slept with one hand always near his gun, a habit born of years of danger. They also made plans. Eleanor hired a reputable mining company to develop the silver claim, with contracts that ensured she received a fair share of the profits without having to involve herself in the operations. The money would start flowing within 6 months, they were told. It was more wealth than Eleanor had ever imagined. Cole resigned from his deputy position, much to Sheriff Booker's disappointment, and used his savings to buy a small ranch on the outskirts of town. It was not much, just 100 acres with a creek running through it and a sturdy house that needed work, but it was theirs. He and Eleanor spent days fixing it up, painting and repairing, turning it into a home. The wedding took place on a warm October afternoon in the small church at the center of Salvation Creek. Eleanor wore a simple white dress that Martha had helped her sew, with wildflowers in her hair. Cole wore his best suit, cleaned and pressed, his hair slicked back and his hands shaking slightly as Eleanor walked down the aisle toward him. Sheriff Booker gave Eleanor away, and Doc Pemberton stood as Cole's best man. Martha cried through the entire ceremony. When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Cole kissed Eleanor like he was sealing a vow that went beyond words, and the small congregation erupted in applause. The reception was held at the boarding house, with food and music and dancing. Cole actually managed to waltz Eleanor around the parlor without tripping, and she laughed with pure joy, her face radiant. They stayed until the sun set and the stars came out, surrounded by the community that had embraced them. Then Cole carried Eleanor over the threshold of their ranch house and they were finally, truly alone. The house smelled of fresh paint and sawdust, and moonlight streamed through the windows. Cole set Eleanor down gently, and she turned to face him, her eyes shining. "Hello, husband," she said softly. "Hello, wife," Cole replied, his voice rough with emotion. They came together with a passion that had been building for weeks, months it seemed, though it had only been a short time. Cole was gentle and reverent, treating Eleanor like she was something precious and breakable, until she demanded more, and then he was fierce and consuming. They learned each other's bodies with the same intensity they had learned each other's minds, giving and taking, worshiping and claiming. Afterward they lay tangled together in their bed, sweaty and satisfied, Cole's hand tracing lazy patterns on Eleanor's bare back. "I love you," he murmured into her hair. "I love you too," Eleanor replied, pressing a kiss to his chest. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for loving me. Always," Cole promised. "For the rest of our lives." The years that followed were good ones, filled with the kind of happiness that comes from genuine partnership and deep love. The silver mine proved even richer than expected, and money flowed into their accounts faster than they could spend it. But Cole and Eleanor remained grounded, using their wealth to improve Salvation Creek, funding a new school, a proper doctor's office, renovations to the church. Cole never went back to law enforcement. Finding contentment in ranching and in the community work he and Eleanor did together. Eleanor discovered a talent for business, managing their investments and the mine's operations with a shrewd intelligence that impressed even the hardened businessmen she dealt with. 18 months after their wedding, Eleanor gave birth to their first child, a healthy baby boy they named James after her father. Cole cried when he held his son for the first time, overcome with a love he had not known was possible. Eleanor watched him with tears in her own eyes, grateful beyond words for this life they had built together. 2 years later, a daughter arrived, named Rose for her red cheeks and lusty cries. Then another son called Thomas. Their house filled with noise and laughter, with the chaos of children and animals, and life lived fully. On their 10th anniversary, Cole and Eleanor took a trip to San Francisco, leaving the children with Martha, who doted on them like a grandmother. They stayed in a fancy hotel, ate at expensive restaurants, went to the theater. But their favorite moment was simply walking along the waterfront at sunset, hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing like they had that first night in the desert. "Are you happy?" Cole asked, a question he had asked many times over the years. "Incredibly," Eleanor answered, the same answer she always gave because it was true. "Are you?" "More than I ever thought possible," Cole said. He stopped walking and turned to face her, the setting sun painting them both gold. "Do you ever think about that day I found you? How different our lives would be if you had collapsed in a different street, if someone else had found you first?" "I think about it all the time," Eleanor admitted. "And I thank God every day that it was you. That you were the one who caught me, who promised to watch over me, who kept that promise. You gave me everything, Cole. A home, a family, a love I never dared dream of." "You gave me the same," Cole said, pulling her close. "I was just going through the motions before you, Eleanor. Doing my duty, living day to day. You gave me purpose. You gave me joy. You gave me a reason to be the best man I could be." They kissed as the sun sank below the horizon, two people who had found each other against impossible odds and built a life more beautiful than either had imagined. When they returned home, their children ran to greet them, and the house erupted in joyful chaos. As the years continued to pass, as their children grew and eventually had children of their own, Cole and Eleanor never lost the connection they had forged in those desperate early days. They would sit on their porch in the evenings, watching the sun set over the Arizona desert, and remember. They remembered the moment Eleanor had collapsed in the street of Salvation Creek, exhausted and terrified. They remembered Cole's promise to watch over her, a promise that had become the foundation of their entire lives. They remembered the gunfight, the journey to Tucson, the moment they admitted they loved each other. And they would smile, knowing that every hardship had been worth it. Every moment of fear and pain and uncertainty had led them to this. A love that had endured, a family that thrived, a life rich in all the things that truly mattered. On the day of their 50th wedding anniversary, the whole town of Salvation Creek turned out to celebrate. There was a parade down Main Street, a barbecue in the town square, speeches and toasts. Cole and Eleanor sat in places of honor, surrounded by their children and grandchildren, their faces lined with age but their eyes still bright with the love that had sustained them for half a century. The current sheriff, a young man who had been mentored by Cole years ago, stood to make a toast. 50 years ago, Deputy Cole Harrison found a woman who would change his life. Eleanor Hartwell had been through hell, but she survived because she was strong and because Cole was there to help her. Their love story has become a legend in Salvation Creek, a reminder that even in the hardest times, even when everything seems lost, love can find a way. To Cole and Eleanor Harrison, the best example of what a marriage should be that any of us have ever seen. Everyone raised their glasses and Cole leaned over to kiss Eleanor gently. 50 years, he murmured, and I would do it all over again just to end up here with you. So would I, Eleanor whispered back, every single moment. As the celebration continued around them, as their grandchildren chased each other through the crowd and their children laughed together, Cole took Eleanor's hand, the same way he had that first night in the desert. His skin was weathered now, his hair silver, but his grip was still strong, still sure. Eleanor looked at their joined hands and thought about all the moments those hands had shared. The first touch when he had picked her up off the street, the gentle way he had brushed her hair from her face, the passionate embraces of their wedding night, the way he had held each of their babies with such tender care, the thousand small gestures of affection over 50 years of marriage. "I haven't slept in 3 days," she had whispered so long ago, a lifetime ago. "Then rest, I'll watch over you," Cole had replied, and he had. Every day of their lives together, through joy and sorrow, through plenty and want, through every challenge and triumph, Cole had watched over Eleanor. And she had watched over him in return, building a partnership that was stronger than the sum of its parts, a love that had grown deeper with every passing year. As the sun set on their anniversary celebration, painting the Arizona sky in shades of orange and purple and gold, Cole and Eleanor walked home together, just as they had walked together through life. Behind them, their family and community celebrated. Before them, their home waited, full of memories and love. Cole opened the door for Eleanor and she stepped inside, then turned back to look at him. In the fading light, she could see the young deputy he had been, superimposed over the man he had become. Both versions were equally dear to her, equally essential. "I love you, Cole Harrison," Eleanor said. "For everything you have given me, for everything you are, for every promise you have kept." "I love you, Eleanor Harrison," Cole replied, stepping inside and closing the door behind them. "Today and always, for the rest of our lives." And in that moment, in that simple exchange, was the truth they had discovered 50 years ago and lived every day since. That real love, the kind that lasts, is built on promises kept, on trust earned, on two people choosing each other again and again, no matter what life brings. They had found each other in the chaos of the Wild West, in a moment of desperation and danger. But they had built something that transcended those harsh beginnings, something beautiful and enduring. They had taken a chance on love when neither of them was looking for it, and it had given them everything. As night fell over Salvation Creek, over the ranch they had built together, over the life they had created from nothing but hope and determination and love, Cole and Eleanor Harrison settled in for another evening together. There would be many more evenings to come, though not an infinite number. But they did not dwell on that. They lived in the moment, grateful for each day, each hour, each heartbeat they shared. Because 50 years ago, an exhausted woman had whispered that she hadn't slept in 3 days, and a cowboy deputy had promised to watch over her while she rested. And from that simple promise, from that moment of connection, had grown a love story that would be told in Salvation Creek for generations to come. A love story that proved that sometimes, the best things in life come when we least expect them, when we are at our lowest and most vulnerable. That sometimes, the person who catches us when we fall is the person we are meant to spend our lives with. That sometimes, a promise made in desperation becomes the foundation of everything good and beautiful that follows. Cole and Eleanor Harrison knew this truth in their bones, had lived it for 50 years, and would carry it with them for whatever time they had left. They had found each other against all odds, had chosen each other every day since, and had built a legacy of love that would outlast them both. And as they sat together in their home, hands intertwined, hearts beating in rhythm, they knew beyond any doubt that they had gotten it right, that their love was real and true and strong enough to weather any storm. That the promise Cole had made all those years ago had been the first of thousands, and that he had kept every single one in the wild, beautiful, dangerous Arizona territory of 1881. Two people had found each other, and in finding each other, they had found home.